Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a very special broadcast. My name is Ken Howard, and I am the CEO of Brothers in Christ. For years, our mission has been clear: to uplift our communities, strengthen families, develop leaders, and be a voice for faith, unity, and positive change. Today, we are proud to introduce something new, something powerful, something necessary. Welcome to the Word on the Street. This platform was created to have real conversations about real issues affecting our communities. We are bringing leaders, influencers, elected officials, and everyday voices to the table, because informed communities make stronger communities. And tonight's episode is especially meaningful. As we close out the final day of Black History Month, we recognize that history is not just something we reflect on, it's something we continue to shape. Representation in leadership matters. Integrity in the justice system matters. So, tonight's episode is titled, Here Come the Judges. This powerful discussion will highlight the importance of the judicial role in our communities and give you an opportunity to hear directly from candidates seeking to serve. At Brothers in Christ, we believe education empowers participation, and participation strengthens democracy. Now, I'm honored to bring forward one of our co-founders, a respected leader and voice in our organization, Stan Hayes, who will introduce our guest moderator for this week's episode. Stan, the floor is yours.
And now, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Risa Lanier. Risa is the Vice President of Policy of External Affairs for the Lawndale Christian Legal Center, and she brings over 20 years of experience in leadership from the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. She is a very well-respected leader, and she stands for fairness, violence reduction, and strengthening our communities. Please help me in welcoming our moderator, Risa Lanier.
So today we have 4 young ladies who are running for judge in the sub-circuit in the city of Chicago. And the purpose of this conversation is to introduce our viewers to these judges. A lot of times our citizens go to the polls, and while they may be very well acquainted with those who are running for other offices such as governor, vice president or senators, even down to our aldermen and committeemen, very little is known about candidates who are running for judge and the qualifications of those candidates. So I thank Brothers in Christ for this platform and for the ability to showcase those candidates who are running for judicial office. What our viewers don't realize is that judges touch every part of our lives, from criminal to civil to family to even traffic. And at least, and one citizen at one time or another in their life may find themselves before the bench in court before a judge. And so it's really important to make sure that we are electing those who are qualified for office, that we understand their backgrounds and that we understand their values as they take this particular position in our society. So I'm very happy to be here and a part of this conversation with 4 outstanding candidates that we will be discussing and having conversation with on today. Our first candidate is Ashley Shambly. Welcome,
Hi.
Ashley.
Hi, Risa. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for joining this conversation and for being willing to share with the voters your qualifications, your judicial philosophy, and your background and experience as our citizens prepare to go to the polls on March 17th to vote for their preferred candidate. So welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
I think we'll start by just a general introduction. Introduce yourself to our viewers. Let us know how long you've been practicing law and what area you practice law.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Greer Chambly, and I am currently an attorney. I have been a lawyer for now the last 16 years. In fact, I remember when I was a baby attorney coming into courtrooms and Risa was in Judge Gaughan's courtroom. And I went over and I introduced myself, but that is a story for another day. But I've been a lawyer for the past 16 years now. I originally started off with the law offices of Judge, who is now Judge John Like, but it was the law office of John F. Like. And then I went on to work in the Cook County Public Defender's Office in 2012. And I have been there ever since. I started off in the family unit, which is actually a civil division. I worked there for over a year. Then I moved on to traffic and domestic violence court. Then I went to felony trial division where I was at for 7 years. And now I am a homicide task force attorney, which means that I deal with only homicides, which is complex litigation. And Risa remembers because she was the first chair and gone. Wait, and also I am running in the first judicial sub-circuit in the Carl Anthony Walker vacancy.
Thank you for that, Ashley, and for telling us about your background. Very impressive background that you have there at the Cook County Public Defender's Office, and even when you first started with who is now Judge John Like. So you mentioned that you are running in the first judicial sub-circuit. So you're our first candidate that we're interviewing today. Can you start by just telling our viewers the difference between candidates who are running in sub-circuits versus candidates that they may see on their ballot in county-wide vacancies?
I surely can. So a candidate who is going to be running countywide means that they will be on anyone who is in Cook County, period. If you are all the way from Justice, Illinois to the northernmost suburbs to Crete, Illinois, the furthest, which I think is the furthest south suburb in Cook County, then they will all be on your ballot. However, if you are in the first sub-circuit, this is our chance to get our seat at the judicial table. That means basically the south side of Chicago. It goes from 103rd and it goes all the way north to Randolph. So it includes neighborhoods like South Loop, Kenwood, North Kenwood, Hyde Park, Jackson Park Highlands, South Shore, Avalon Park, Chatham, West Chatham, Peel Hill, West Chesterfield, all of those areas. And that was created specifically for that condensed neighborhood to choose who they want to become a judge. So only people who live from 103rd all the way north to Randolph and from basically the body of water, the lake, and it zigzags as it comes around into Halsted, and sometimes it goes all the way east to Michigan, then you can vote for me.
Perfect. Now tell us, what distinguishes your campaign and qualifications from any other candidates who may be opposing you in this election?
What distinguishes me is that I am an in-courtroom attorney, as you know, as a trial attorney with the law offices of Judge John Like. I went to court regularly every single day. In fact, I had the flu one day and he made me go do a preliminary hearing. I had to pull over in the alley in a trash can and vomit. I will never forget, and keep going. It come rain, sleet, or snow, we were doing a jury trial. I did it with the flu one time. It doesn't matter. I am in court every single day. As a homicide task force attorney, I don't have as many clients, but I am still in court regularly. But prior to that, I was in court every single day doing motions, doing litigation, making arguments, dealing with the public at large. Also, I have been found qualified and recommended to be a judge by all evaluating bar. God bless you, whoever sneezes. But also the difference between me and the other people in my race is that I've been doing this work. And I haven't been doing it theoretically. I've been doing the actual work. I've been doing the sentencing hearings. I've been doing the investigations. I've been making determinations on witnesses' credibility, on who I'm going to call. I've been arguing the rules of evidence for I don't even know how long at this point, actually doing the work. And I am the only one running with that actual in-courtroom experience. And that's what a judge does. They preside over trials. They rule on motions. They make credibility determinations. And that's what I've been doing every single day for the last, 16 years.
Thank you. So how do you describe your judicial philosophy and how it will guide your decision-making when you're on the bench?
So my judicial philosophy is this: kindness costs you nothing. There is no reason to be angry or mean when making determinations because your say is the last say. I wholeheartedly believe that you have to get the full background before you make any determinations. There are going to be some cases that come into these courtrooms that are going to blow your minds, and I've heard them over the years, but you still have to get the full picture before you make a determination, and you have to make sure that all of your decisions are within the bounds of the law, the Constitution. But also, I believe that listening to people who come before me is one of the biggest things, and making sure that everyone feels heard. You may not leave here with the decision that you were hoping for, but at least you will know that it was a well thought out decision that I made before I made that. And I listened to you and I got your full story and listened to any evidence you decided to present before I came to that conclusion.
Thank you. Now, the area that you're running in, you said runs from Randolph all the way down, to the south side of the city of Chicago. So you've got a pretty diverse area there. But within your area, you have a lot of Black communities. And we know that Black communities, when it comes to the court system, especially the criminal court system, there's a lack of trust there. So how can the court system build stronger trust with underserved or historically marginalized communities?
So that is so true. I'm a Cook County public defender, and they like to call us penitentiary deliverers and all the things. So I've actually been doing the work. I teach a Know Your Rights series, and I've been doing that for years now. Specifically, I was at Inner City Muslim Action Network for a while. But I also teach with April Prayer, who goes around to different schools, and we talk to all different types of people. And I let them know what the court system is, who we are, what the roles of people are, and what they can expect. But I think that from the judiciary point, and I'm also a member of National Coalition of 100 Black Women, last year we hosted a forum, a panel on Get to Know Your Judges and what they do. And we had Black judges come in and sit down and tell people, like, hey, this is what I do. This is what you can expect when you come to court. This is the help that I can give you. This is the help that you need to get from others. And these are the services available. So I think going into the community and letting people know, that's one of the things I plan on doing. I don't plan on disconnecting after I win my race. I'm going to continue to do the work that I can within the judicial limitations, but still being very accessible, still appearing on panels, still mentoring people and listening to anyone who wants to hear me talk about what the court system is, demystifying it, and making sure that people still feel connected and understand it's not so scary a place when you have someone who is there that understands you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And so in the same vein, looking at the court system now, what reforms or improvements do you believe are needed within the court system?
Ooh, reforms. I think the public defender's office is an amazing place, and I think that people who appear in court who have civil cases should have some form of that. They should have counsel as well. They should be entitled to some form of free counsel that are still willing to help them. I think that should be the rule for those who come into there. I also believe, and I'll take this back to the criminal system, the reforms that we need to do. I'm not going to get into my soapbox and saying we need people who listen more to our clients, but I also think that it's important that we have people who come from our communities, who have similar lived life experiences, and who understand that if you a person driving down the street, that you can't get pulled over for no other reason than that you are a Black person. My husband is a police officer, but he still gets pulled over regularly. And it's happened to me before too. We need to have people with shared life experiences who listen and understand. And that's one of the reasons I'm running.
So what systems of accountability do you believe judges should maintain with the public?
So you have what is called the Judicial Inquiry Board, but I think that sometimes, and you also have retention, But I also think that some people don't know about, a lot of people don't know about that. A lot of my clients didn't know about that. A lot of the general public don't know that you can actually file a complaint on judges if something happens that you don't like. We get in Justice Watch articles, and then we have people who are not retained if they fall out of the public grace. But I think that, I don't know, maybe like a judicial report card, maybe quicker retention. Maybe the judges can come back up for retention quicker than the 6, I think it's 6 years, every 6 years. Because by 6 years, people have forgotten about the thing you did 6 years ago, or they don't care. You know, the memory is short. The public memory is short on things. So maybe retention every 2 years keeps people honest, keeps people in the community, and make sure that they're actually serving the community they said they would.
Last question for you, Ashley. Why should our viewers who live in the First Subcircuit vote for you?
Again, hi, my name is Ashley Greer-Chambly. I'm an attorney and I'm running for judge. I've been a lawyer for the last 16 years, and I am not doing theoretical work. I'm doing the actual work. I've been in court regularly, every single day, fighting for your constitutional rights. And we are in a world now where that is more important than ever. I have stood next to you at the hardest times of your life and often been the only one who believed in you and made sure that you had the protections that we are all entitled to in this country. I have been in the community working really hard. I'm a member of Imagine Inglewood If, National Coalition of 100 Black Women, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I've been doing service for years. It did not begin when I started running this campaign. I have a 2-year-old son who is growing up in this community, and what happens in the courtroom directly affects what happens in our community. And I care about what happens to our community because it's going to happen to my son. I have been found qualified and recommended by all evaluating bar organizations. I've been a union steward for the past 13 years, so I understand what working families go through. I've been a board member of AFSCME Local 3315 for the past 4 years. In fact, I'm endorsed by Chicago Federation of Labor, Personal PAC, Cook County Democratic Women, IVI IPO, and Cook County Board President Tony Preckle, U.S. Congressman Jonathan Jackson, Cook County Commissioner Bill Lowry, Cook County Commissioner Stanley Moore, my Alderwoman Michelle Harris, LG Sims, who is the committee person of the 6th Ward, Alderman Will Hall, and so many more. And I say all of that to say that I have been doing the work. We have been knocking on the doors and making sure people know that judges are not just someone that you see occasionally. I am your neighbor. I care about what happens to you. I've been serving the community, and I'm asking that you let me continue to serve you from the bench. Thank you.
And last question, Ashley, if voters wanted to vote for you and they go into the polls, what should they do?
They should punch 143, Justice with Ashley. Vote for Ashley Greer-Chambly. The election starts, well, it's already started if you vote downtown or in the south suburbs, but early voting in your precinct begins March 2nd. And then the actual election day is March 17th, St. Patty's Day.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for appearing today and for sharing with us your candidacy for the First Subcircuit the open judicial position.
Thank you, Risa. Thank you so much. And it was so good to see you.
Good to see you. Well, there you have it, viewers. Our first candidate to appear before you today, Ashley Chambly, again, who is running in the First Subcircuit. If you liked what you heard and you'd like to support her candidacy at the polls and you live in the First Subcircuit, remember to punch number 143. Our next candidate is Amari Dawson.
Hi, good afternoon, Risa.
Good afternoon, Amari, and thank you so much for appearing on our podcast or vlog today to talk about judicial candidates who are running in Cook County. Now, as I understand it, you are also running in a subcircuit. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what subcircuit are you running in, Amari?
I am running in the 17th Judicial Sub-Circuit. The 17th Judicial Sub-Circuit is a newer sub-circuit. It was created in 2022 as part of a redistricting program so that the people in the state of Illinois can seek judges who can diversify the bench. In other words, judges who are reflective of the communities in which they serve. The 17th Judicial Sub-Circuit covers the 7th and 10th wards in Chicago, at least a portion of the 7th ward, and 20 plus of the southeastern suburbs of Cook County. Our sub-circuit goes as far north as 71st Street and as far south as Stager, Illinois, on the Cook County side.
Thank you. Now, Amari, why don't you start? We'll start with a really easy question. Tell us a little bit about your history in law, who you work for, and what you've done in your positions.
Yes. As far as my history in law is concerned, I have been an attorney for over 20 years. As an attorney, I first started out in a community-based organization in Inglewood. I was the director of community corrections and interventions at Beloved Community Family Services. At Beloved Community Family Services, I created jobs and life skills programs for at-risk youth. Most of these youth had problems with the criminal justice system. It was there that I was trained in restorative justice practices and helped train others in those same practices. After leaving the organization, after a period of 2 years, I was hired by the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. I have been with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office for over 18 years, and I am currently still employed by the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. As an assistant state's attorney, I have served in several divisions, including the felony trial division and more recently the appellate division. Therefore, I have been afforded the opportunity to work in both the trial courts and the appellate courts. As a trial lawyer, I was in court every day for at least 13 years. I have prosecuted all types of crimes, those as minor as traffic to those as serious as murder. Not only have I prosecuted criminal trials or criminal matters, however, I have also participated in civil hearings during some of that time. The cases that were assigned to me were not the cases that I chose to have assigned to me, but rather whatever cases that were needed to be handled in protecting the people of the state of Illinois. For the last 5 years or so, I have been in the division. In the appellate division, I I analyze trial outcomes. These are cases that are come because defendants have said that they've received an unfavorable judgment and would like for someone else to look at it to make sure that their convictions or other unfavorable judgments were obtained fairly. Doing so, I have had the opportunity, seldomly on occasion, to say that those unfavorable judgments were not obtained fairly. And as a result, we must do something about that. While a felony trial attorney, I also have supervised and managed attorneys in our felony trial division. And in doing so, I have had the opportunity to monitor a team of attorneys where I had to ensure that the evidence met our burden of proof or otherwise not handle those charges. To kind of wrap up my professional experience, also prior to even going to law school, I helped those who experience housing discrimination, bankruptcy, and other things of the sort. That is my legal career in a nutshell, and I also managed parolees and received a commendation from the Illinois Department of Corrections for helping to capture a fugitive.
Thank you so much for going over your history and what a history that is, Amari. So after 20 years, what is motivating you to run for judicial office at this time? And what gap or need do you believe your candidacy addresses?
Well, Risa, I was raised by parents who fought for civil rights. As a young child, I knew that I would be an attorney and one day become a judge. In doing so, at a young age, I helped my parents help those in underprivileged communities. As a youth, I witnessed the murder of someone very dear to me. And it was at that time I knew that I had to help assist others in creating safe communities. A short time thereafter, I myself was arrested. And being arrested, I had a personal experience with the criminal justice system. I knew that judges always made important decisions, and I knew that I wanted to be one of those people who helped make fair decisions, especially when it affected the lives, liberty, and economic stability of others. The older that I have become, the more the need has grown. And in today's time, we know that judges are making very important decisions that affect the livelihoods of us all. And it is at this time that I know I have the training that is needed to make those fair decisions that I decided to run for judge.
So you spoke and you're speaking about fairness, right? And we hear a lot of candidates talk about fairness. But really, what does that mean in practical terms for a judge? What does it mean practically? What does it look like to be a fair and impartial judge?
Practically, what it means is you have to look at the law. You have to obey the law. You have to follow the rule of law. And you have to do so with compassion, with fairness, and equitably. What that means is setting aside your biases, recognizing your biases first, because until you recognize them, you can't set them aside and rule fairly in accordance with the law, despite what you identify with, their socioeconomic background, or the color of their skin. My candidacy addresses this need. I have had constant contact with people from all walks of life, especially as an assistant state's attorney. Also, in my personal life, I've lived in neighborhoods such as North Lawndale and the Roseland communities, and I've been a South Suburban resident for the last 16 years of my life. I've also lived in some more wealthier communities in the state of Illinois, and I have traveled extensively. I have contact with people from everywhere. This makes me rounded out. And once again, I have the personal experience and the professional experience to be compassionate, to deliver rulings in an unbiased manner, and you know that I am trained.
Thank you. So you talked about, your job as a state's attorney, things that you have done for parolees and other community-based experiences that you've had. So what role should judges play in addressing community challenges such as public safety, youth involvement, or restorative justice?
Judges should, first of all, work outside of the courtroom, not just in the courtroom. They can do this by educating the community on the role of the judiciary, having a dialogue with the community to see what it is that the community needs from them. There are so many times that judges and other people want to decide or make their own opinions about what the community needs. Until you speak directly with the community, you don't know what the community needs. You only can assume what the community needs. So first, you have to listen to the community. And after listening to the community, you then educate the community on the role and how you can help. And once you do those things, you partner with community-based organizations who can provide services to victims, those who've been accused of crimes, those who are re-entering into the community, so on and so forth.
Thank you. So what does success look like for you at the end of your first term, should you be elected for office?
Well, Risa, I plan to be elected for office. So let's say that first of all. So what success would look like for me in the next 6 or 7 years would be, first, to be respected as a judge who delivers fair rulings and who teaches others about the role of not only just the judiciary, but other stakeholders within the community. It would be to help deliver justice in a more swift manner than what it has been being delivered lately, especially in Cook County due to the size of our jurisdiction. Also, it would be to impact the people who come in my courtroom in a positive manner, to help to encourage them. And these things are not necessarily quantified on a daily basis, but that is what success would look like for me. If I can give one person or the youth something to know that this is possible, you can be a judge. That's something else that success will be like. So I guess in a nutshell, to know that I'm a fair judge, to not have any adverse rulings, which means I have followed the law, and to help others become better people.
And what are you doing now to engage voters and educate the public about the importance of the judicial office?
So what I am doing now is I am attending community forums. I am having that dialogue with community members as I discussed. I am also participating in classes where I can learn more. I am interacting with judges and justices who can teach me, and I am watching them so I can emulate their positive behaviors.
Thank you, Amari. Now, before we wrap up with you, you mentioned that you're running in the 17th Sub-Circuit, and you also mentioned 7th and 10th Ward. So a lot of our viewers, a lot of voters don't know what ward they live in. They don't know what sub-circuit they live in. So tell us the neighborhoods that are within the 17th Sub-Circuit.
Correct. So as far as the major neighborhoods in the 7th and 10th wards are like this area, the Hedgewish area. If you live off Jeffrey, South Shore, some parts of Cottage, in the anything close to the left, in the from south of 71st, the areas in the south suburbs such as Calumet City, Dalton, South Highland, Lansing, Glenwood, Chicago Heights, Ford Heights, Stager, so on and so forth. And if you're not sure whether you live in the 7th or 10th ward, there is an online tool where you can find out where your voting places are and what ward you live in, especially as it relates to the 7th ward, because the 7th ward is split between the 1st and 17th judicial subcircuits. And unfortunately, there are no clear lines. But generally speaking, the 17th subcircuit covers the most southern eastern part of that particular ward. If your alderman is Gregory Mitchell or Peter Chico, more than likely you're in the 17th judicial subcircuit.
Thank you. So final question for you, Amari. Why should our viewers and why should voters who live in the 17th subcircuit vote for you?
Risa, they should vote for me because I have not only the professional experience, but I have a personal experience with the court system. I know the court system inside and out. I have served in possibly every role one could serve in a courtroom, and that's on a daily basis. I am a litigator, I am a negotiator, and I am a mediator. I am a fair person. And if fairness is what they want to see, they need to vote for me, Amari, number 143.
And so if they live in the 17th subcircuit and they've liked what they heard and they want to support you in judicial office, you're asking the voters to punch number 143.
Correct. And we are found at the bottom of the ballot. Although judges make very important decisions, unfortunately, we are at the bottom of the ballot. So I would advise those voters, please go through the entire ballot. And if not, at least start at the bottom and vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you again, Amari, for joining us for this very important conversation today.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Again, viewers, you have now heard from our second candidate, Miss Amari Dawson, who is running in the 17th subcircuit, and she did set forth the boundaries of the 17th subcircuit. And if you like what you heard and you believe that she would be the best candidate for this position in your area to represent you on the bench, punch 143 for Amari Dawson in the 17th subcircuit. Our next candidate we welcome is Radiance Ward.
Hello. Hi, Risa. How are
Hi,
you?
Radiance. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
So, Radiance, why don't we start by asking you what subcircuit you are running in and tell us the boundaries of your subcircuit as well.
So I am Radiance Ward. I am running in the first subcircuit. So the same subcircuit that you heard about earlier from Ashley Greer Shambly, but I'm running for a separate vacancy. I am running for the Balanoff vacancy. The boundaries for the first go from Randolph and State along the lake all the way down to, I like to say, Olive Harvey. So 103rd, 104th Street. It includes the neighborhoods of South Loop, Kenwood, Hyde Park, South Shore, Chatham, Avalon Park, Burnside, Pill Hill, a tiny bit of Rosemore. So most of the southeast side of Chicago is in the first subcircuit.
And then you also mentioned that you are running in the same subcircuit as Ashley Greer Shambly, who we heard from. Just so voters are very clear, how many vacancies or how many judges, how many positions are open right now in the first subcircuit?
Sure. So there are two vacancies in the first subcircuit, the Walker vacancy, which is what Ashley is running for, and then the Balanoff vacancy, which is the one that I'm voting for. So you can vote for both of us. You will see both of our names listed in separate races on your ballot.
Thank you. Radiance, we'll start with a really easy question for you. Tell us about your journey as a lawyer, who you were working for, what you've done, and what you're currently doing.
Okay, so I've been practicing law for 18 years. I started off at a nonprofit. My entire career has been in the public sector. So I worked at a nonprofit representing survivors of domestic violence in family law matters. So divorce, child support, child custody hearings. I then transitioned to government and went to the law office, to the chief judge's office, sorry, working in the Chancery Division, the mortgage foreclosure section of the Chancery Division. There, I helped homeowners navigate the court system during the height of the recession so that they were able to keep their homes. After that, I then moved to the public defender's office, which is where I've been for the past 13 years. In the public defender's office, I started off in what was called the child protection division. I think it's called family defense now, and that's the civil work. I then moved to juvenile delinquency, so representing juveniles who were charged with all sorts of offenses from misdemeanors to felonies. I then went to a general felony courtroom, and now I'm in the homicide task unit, so I represent those charged with homicide.
Okay, so
I'm
Radiance,
also, I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
I'm also an adjunct professor of law at Loyola Chicago. I can't forget that. I've been a professor of law for the past 13 years, so that is also one of the jobs that I do.
So you have had a really vast experience. You not only practice criminal law, but you've also practiced aspects of family law and also civil law.
Yes.
Is that correct?
So that's correct.
So tell us why that's important for the viewers to know and understand about you as they think about who to vote for as a judge.
So one of the questions that we often get when we're on the campaign trail is what court are you running for? And I explain to voters that, when you run for judge in the Circuit Court of Cook County, you aren't running for a seat in a specific type of court. So you're not running in a criminal, you're not running for a traffic position or for, medical malpractice. You run, and then it's up to the chief judge to decide where you go. And so because I have done both civil and criminal work, I've represented survivors as well as the accused. I have the experience to be placed in almost any courtroom that the chief judge would place me in.
Thank you for that. So tell us, can you describe, or strike that, what distinguishes your campaign and qualifications from other candidates who may be running against you for your particular office?
So I have been found highly qualified by the Chicago Bar Association. I have been found highly qualified by the Lesbian and Gay Bar Association of Chicago, as well as found well qualified by the Chicago Council of Lawyers, and qualified or recommended by all other evaluating bar associations. That is important because what those evaluations do is that those evaluations are conducted by lawyers who evaluate your work history, your trial experience, your reputation in the legal community. And I've been found, I am the only person in my race to have been found qualified to be a judge. I've also spent my entire career representing the people who live in the subcircuit. Even when I was representing survivors, that was in family law matters, those were people who lived in the community as well as the accused. I've never once attempted to deport individuals. I've never once been someone who worked to try to hurt the people who live in the first subcircuit or in Cook County. And so that separates me, that distinguishes me from anyone else who would be running in my race. I have the qualifications, I have the recognition by the bar associations, and that separates me.
Thank you. So again, you're running in the first subcircuit, which is really a diverse subcircuit. You've got from Randolph all the way to parts of the south side of the city of Chicago. So how will you ensure that individuals from diverse communities feel respected and heard within the courtroom?
So I think that it is important for everyone who comes in to be treated like a person. All too often, we look at these cases as attorneys. We're kind of taught to look at the facts, right? We go to law school and we're issue spotting. We don't see. We're not. It's not impressed upon us to see that there are people behind these cases. And so, one of the things that I plan to do, one of the things that I try to do as an attorney, but that I plan to do on the bench is to see that there's a human being, there are lives that are impacted behind these set of facts, behind the case numbers. And that doesn't matter whether or not you come from South Loop or South Shore, whether you come from, Hyde Park or Park Manor, to see the individual, the whole person. People want to feel respected, but they also want to feel heard. And in the court system, that is often moving quickly because we are all about efficiency in court. That is the goal. We want to dispose of these cases. People want to feel like the person that's deciding their cases listens to them. And I don't think that should be reserved to people with money. I don't think that should be reserved to people who live in certain neighborhoods or who have certain skin colors. So I plan to treat everyone as a person and not just a set of facts.
Thank you. Now, based upon your experience, again, you've worked in the not-for-profit space, helping survivors of domestic violence. So you understand about community-based organizations and their roles within the community. Well, what partnerships between courts and community organizations do you believe are important?
I think one of the things that I think the court that's very important is the work with juveniles. I think that courts should be doing more to keep juveniles from the correction side of thing and more into trying to prevent them from getting into the system in the first place. Studies have shown, and in my own experience, anecdotally, I've seen that when you catch a person when they're younger, they're less likely to become repeat offenders in the court system. So if you are able to help them, if you are able to provide assistance, to provide support in whatever issues that they are going through, you might be able to fix the issues that are causing them to come into the system. So I think with the juveniles, that's something that's very important, but also with mental health. We see so often that people with mental health diagnoses are funneling in and out of court, and not just in criminal court. You see it in civil court. You see it in that they don't have the resources or support to navigate those systems. So I think that if the courts would help provide resources and support, then we might not see people with mental health issues escalating at the rates that we see them escalating.
Thank you. So we know that judges, and when you go out and you're talking, in your candidacy, and people are asking you, well, what is your opinion on this? What is your opinion on that? And as judges, you have to be impartial, but that does not mean that you don't also have priorities that you can focus on. So what are the top 3 priorities that you hope to focus on if you are elected?
So the top 3 priorities for me would be one, for me to treat every person with compassion. I have these, I think that people, as I stated, want to feel heard. And even if you are ruling against them, for people to not just feel like a number in the court system is so important. I think people are disillusioned with the courts because they just feel like they're on an assembly line. So that would be number one. I think that addressing some of the biases that exist in the court system. And that starts with, recognizing and acknowledging your own implicit bias. That starts with making sure that keeping yourself in check as you are attempting to make these decisions. And then also to stay informed. The law is ever changing, it's evolving. And so you can't look at a 2026 case through the same eyes that you looked at a 1996 case. And so I think that being informed, making sure that people feel heard, and also making sure that, you know, biases are checked are the top three things that I would want to address in the court system.
Thank you. And in that answer, the answer that you just gave reference, you know, looking at things through a more modern lens. How do you plan to do so, or how do you plan to promote that lens of societal growth and intertwining that with with your job as a judge? How do you plan to do that and promote that within the judiciary?
I think it starts with exposure. I think that you cannot stay in your own little bubble. I think that you have to um, be aware of the changes that are happening in society in Cook County, in Chicago, on the South Side. I think you have to be aware of the things that are impacting the community in that moment, because as we know, what impacted me when I was in high school is not the same thing that the high school students are dealing with today. And so I think you have to know, you have to take an active and proactive step to learn about the areas, learn about Chicago, Cook County, and not just stay in your own little bubble.
Now, how will you balance compassion and accountability when you're presiding over cases?
That is a good question. I think that it's about how you treat people. It's about com- setting the tone of the courtroom. And even if you are making a decision that is adverse to someone, you don't have to do it in a nasty way. There are so many times where I've had clients as an attorney where I might have lost a case, but they felt like they were heard and that I fought for them and that I listened to them. So it is, you can still treat people with compassion and with respect, even if you are ruling against them. And I think that's the job of a judge. A judge has to follow the law. And sometimes that means oftentimes that means you're making a decision where somebody is not getting what they want, but you don't have to be rude. You don't have to be nasty. You don't have to be unfriendly about it. And so I think, again, seeing the humanity as you're making these tough decisions.
Thank you. Now, today's talk is being hosted by Brothers in Christ, which is a faith-based organization. You talked about the role of the judiciary in partnering with community-based organizations, but how can faith-based or grassroots organizations collaborate with the judicial system to help strengthen communities and really build that trust in the judicial system?
I think the best way for people to know what a judge does, or you know, the role of a judge, is to hear it from a judge. And so I know, as a public defender, there are all these stereotypes about what public defenders are, what they do. And I go into communities, I go into the community with organizations and talk about what I do. And I think it's important for the judiciary to do that. I know that that there are colleagues turned judges who go into schools and they share what the job of a judge is, and what the limitations of a judge's job is. And I think that's important to do that in churches. I think it's important to do that in community organizations, but I also think it's important for churches and community organizations to stress the importance of actually voting for those judges, because we all know that people are more likely to encounter a judge than they are likely to encounter the governor. Even if you get a traffic ticket, even if you're speeding, you're going to come before a judge unless you just pay it. But so you're more likely to encounter a judge. And so I think it's important for not only that collaboration for judges to be able to go into the community and speak about what they do, but to encourage community members to actively participate and vote and make informed choices about who the judges are going to be. Research the judges, because the resources are out there. It's just a lot of people don't know about them.
Thank you for that. And that's so important too, for our judges to get off of the bench and to get into the community so that voters understand who they are, what they do, and the importance of voting for judges in these elections. Last question for you, Radiance.
Yes.
Now, you are running against, you have other opponents in your race. Is that correct? How many people are running in your particular race?
There is one. I have one opponent, so there are two people running for the ballot off vacancy.
Okay. Tell the voters, as they are listening to you here today, why they should vote for you as opposed to your candidate. or
I am
as
the
opposed to
correct
your opponent?
My opponent, yes. I am the right choice for this particular race because I know the law. I've talked about my experience, my 18 years in the courtroom as a trial attorney, doing civil and criminal, representing survivors and the accused. But I also know the impact of the law. The week before I took the bar exam, I sat in a courtroom at 26 in California, the same courtroom, same courthouse that I practice in today, and watched the trial of the man charged with and ultimately convicted of killing my cousin. I sat and watched the confusion on my family's face. I sat and heard my grandmother complain about feeling like she wasn't considered, that our family's rights weren't considered. I know that feeling intimately, and I carry those feelings with me as I practice law, and I, will carry those feelings with me from the bench. It is not just an intellectual exercise for me. It's not just a power move for me. It is something that I feel very passionately about because I think that everybody should feel heard before the court, and everybody's cases should be decided by a judge who knows the law, but also knows the people who are appearing in front of the court. So that's why I'm asking for support. My punch number is 141. That is for the ballot-off vacancy in the first judicial subcircuit.
Thank you so much, Radiance, for taking the time to speak to our viewers and voters about your candidacy, and we wish you luck at the polls.
Thank you for having me.
Viewers, you have just heard from Radiance Ward, who again is running for the ballot-off vacancy in the first subcircuit. And if you've liked what you heard and you want to support her as a candidate and vote for her, punch 141 at the ballots. Our final candidate today is Natalia Moore.
Hi,
welcome.
Lisa.
Hi, Natalia. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for appearing today. You are the last candidate to speak here today, but we are very excited to hear what you have to say and hear all about your candidacy and your qualifications. Can you first start by telling us what subcircuit you're running for and what areas of Cook County that covers?
So I am running for the 17th subcircuit. You heard earlier about Amari Dawson, who's running in the 17th subcircuit. Now, she and I are not running against each other. Amari is running for the seat of James Carroll. I am running for the seat of the Honorable Lloyd Brooks. And the 17th subcircuit is the 7th and 10th ward in Chicago. It's portions of the 7th ward, which is 71st Street and south, but then east of Stony Island. And then the south suburbs, which is Dalton, Burnham, Calumet City, Thornton, Sauk Village, South Holland, Ford Heights, Chicago Heights, Hazelcrest, East Hazelcrest, portions of Homewood, and Stager, the Cook County side of Stager.
Thank you. Now, Natalia, I'm going to start with a very easy question for you. Why don't you educate the voters about your, where you're currently assigned, where you currently work, and tell us a little bit about your history as a lawyer.
Sure. So first, Risa, my journey to justice began long before law school. As a little girl, I would travel with Mamie Till Mobley, who's the mother of Emmett Till, and she would sign me out of school, and I would travel with her on the civil rights battlegrounds. She actually taught me how to fight for civil rights for all people. And Risa, I was that little girl who helped to fight to make Dr. King's birthday a national holiday. She allowed me to help in that respect. And law was actually a second career for me because I started out, my undergrad is in radio and television broadcasting. So I used to host a gospel radio show, which turned out to be the #1 gospel radio show in Chicago. And then I decided to go to law school. So currently, I am the lead assistant state's attorney for the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. In that role, I train attorneys, and I have trained to date over 100 attorneys. 2 of my attorneys are sitting judges today, so I'm happy to say that. And so I basically train them on the law, on procedure, and how to be fair. And the 3 principles that I've always trained them on are the 3 principles that I grew up on, which were integrity, equality, and respect. And they always say, Natalia will beat you over the head with integrity. And they're right, because I tell them that's your name. Then if I say your name, if I see your name behind a case, then I should be able to say, oh, this was done with integrity because that's your name.
Thank
And
you.
also, Lisa, I've done so much in the community. I love to serve. So I've done after school tutoring in the community. I tutored in math, I tutored in English, and I had a class called Interviewing Skills where I tutored young teenagers and young adults on how to prepare for a job interview. I also had a charm class for girls where for 8 weeks it was free. All this was free of charge. I would have girls to come to the center and I would teach them techniques like walking, sitting, standing, dinner etiquette. What's the difference in a salad fork and a dinner fork? And I would tell them, I want you to boost your confidence because I want you to be able to sit at those tables with the big wigs and have confidence in knowing what you're doing. And after the 8 week course, me and the others would get together and we would throw them a ball where they would dress in their finest. We would have their fathers or their surrogate dads to escort them in and they could display what they've learned in our course. And so we've been really active. I've been really active in the community.
Thank you. And just so our voters are very clear about the work that you do at the state's attorney's office, you mentioned that you are a lead attorney. Can you tell us what area or what specific practice of law you focus on?
Yes. So currently, I am the lead attorney in Family Law Division. So we help with child support. I also, Risa, I also handle criminal cases as well. So I am the one that trains in child support, medical insurance, so how to keep the family unit together, even if they're apart. And also when there's criminal non-support issues, I've also trained attorneys on how to bring evidence and charges before the grand jury so that we can get those approved.
So you have both civil and criminal experience.
I do, yes.
Thank you. Now, how many other candidates are running against you? One other candidate. So can you tell the voters and the viewers what distinguishes your campaign and your qualifications from your opponents?
Yes. So, Risa, I am the only candidate in my race that has over a decade of experience in Illinois law. So I have nearly 18 years of experience now. I'm the only candidate that has a diverse background. So I've handled cases in real estate. I've handled cases civilly, criminally, which included wills, trusts, probates, evictions, and family law. I'm the only candidate who has never had a lawsuit filed against them for wrongdoings. I'm also the only candidate who can definitely say that Illinois law is something that I know very, very well. So aside from that, I'm the candidate who is active in the community, who has a heart for people and for service.
And you mentioned, being the only candidate who has this type of experience and the length of experience you had in Illinois law. Just so our voters are clear on this, the position that you're running for is a state judge, not a federal judge position, which means that the rule of law in Illinois is the rule of law that governs in the seat that you will be occupying. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, how will you balance compassion with accountability when you are presiding over cases?
So, Risa, that is very important because people should be held accountable, but accountability looks different for different people. We have to continue to understand that individuals are just that, they're individuals. So the same type of accountability for one person would not necessarily be the same accountability for another person. So if we see somebody who, of course, we want to hold them accountable, but who we can steer back into a quality of life, then their accountability might look like community service, or it might look like them going to school, getting a degree, or getting a diploma. Whereas accountability for another person might have to be doesn't open.
Or you
particularly is the safety of the public. We have to consider recidivism, and is there a possibility of recidivism in these criminal cases? So you are accountable to make sure that when you're making these rulings, that the public safety is not at risk. So judges absolutely have that. They have that burden.
Now, you just talked about public safety in your answer here, right? And we know that a lot of times in the Black community, that public safety, when it's mentioned in these types of communities, are underserved and marginalized communities, which make up the majority of the people who appear in criminal court, whether you're on the victim side or the defendant side, that when you talk about public safety in those communities, we hear that you just want to lock up. You just want to, throw away the key and put our people in jail. So how will you, as a judge, in determining and carrying out public safety, also address community challenges like youth involvement or restorative justice, which looks different from, just putting people in jail?
I love that question, Risa, because that hits home for me, because when I first became an assistant state's attorney, I lost a really good friend. And I lost that friend because it was a male friend, and we have been best friends for years. When he found out I came to the state's attorney's office, he says, "Oh, you just want to lock brothers up." And he actually walked away. I was trying to get him to understand that's not my goal. My goal is actually to affect change from the inside. We've since, reconciled our friendship, because I have restored my trust, his trust in me and his trust in the system, because that's what judges have to do as well. You have to make sure that people understand that your job is not just to lock people up. And that's not what a judge is there to do. As a certified mediator, I'm a trained listener, and I'm also Peace Circle trained. So I actually spent time 2 weeks at 2 weeks time at the Restorative Justice Center actually last month. And so I'm Peace Circle trained as well, and I got a chance to see how that works. And that's actually a very effective program. So if the Peace Circle, if restorative justice can be used to steer somebody right back into society, then that should be used. And as a judge, we need to make sure that we restore everybody's trust in the judicial system, knowing that, oh, this judge actually saw that there was a chance that this person could be restored back into society. So we have to take that road.
Now, what the public doesn't really understand or appreciate is the enormity of the decisions that judges have to make, and that there are pressures that come from all sorts of places, within the criminal system, and then external pressures as well. We see lots of times when judges are mentioned in articles and their decisions are mentioned in articles, and that they're challenged and they're criticized for their decisions. How will you handle difficult or controversial decisions while maintaining integrity and public confidence?
So the first thing that we have to look at, Risa, is that a judge's job is to abide by the law. And we know that when cases come in criminal court, when cases come in civil court, there's going to be a winner, there's going to be a loser. Somebody's always going to be angry with the judge. But the one thing that I want them to be able to say, even if they're on the losing side, is that judge treated me fairly. So if I abide by the law, and if I apply it correctly and apply it equitably is not always equal, but equitably to the situation that's in front of me, then even those who criticize can say, wait, but if I look at it, the judge did do the right thing.
Thank you. Now, we know that judges play a role in the communities outside of their function on the bench. And that a lot of times, what the voters may not know is that a lot of times, there are school classes that are coming through and observing what's happening in court. There are talks that judges give. Today, Brothers in Christ have hosted 4 Black women who are veteran attorneys, whether you're on the public defense side or the prosecutor side, community-based criminal lawyers, civil lawyers. And that a lot of times that our young people are looking for that representation. How will you, or what advice do you have for young people who are interested in careers in law and public service?
So, Risa, I am currently the vice president of the National Black Prosecutors Association, and I have been on the executive board for 3 years straight now. In that role, I have instituted a program called Prosecutors in the Classroom, and whereby we go into the classroom and we teach the students a couple of things. We teach them their rights as citizens, and we teach them how to resolve conflicts without resorting to violence. So we were actually invited back by a school. They asked us to come and to judge their science fair. When we judged their science fair, this little boy walked up to me and he tapped me on my side. He couldn't have been more than 8 years old. And he said, "Excuse me, miss." I said, "Yes." He said, "Black people can become lawyers?" And I said, that touched my heart because I didn't know that they didn't know this. So we have to definitely let them know that this is something that you can do. So I ended up I took a group of teenagers, boys and girls, and I drove them across country lines to Canada. They have where you can reenact the Underground Railroad. We did a reenactment and it was so surreal where we were ducking behind trees. They had the sound effects, the dogs and everything. And then they told us, when you cross over this particular threshold, this is indicative of you just crossed over into freedom. So start clapping and singing. So me, along with the other supervisor, we crossed over first and we started clapping. And as we walked on, we didn't hear any clapping. We turned around, every single one of my teenagers were in tears. And they said, "Miss Natalia, this is what our ancestors went through." I said, "Yes." I said, "What you are experiencing today, the rights and the privileges that you have, this was on their backs, the blood, sweat, and tears." So I would begin to tell them, this is why it's important for you to exercise your right to vote, exercise those rights that you have, because this is what it took. This is part of what it took to get you the rights that you have. So I think it's important for judges and for us as people to educate our younger generation, to let them know you must exercise those rights.
Thank you for that. One final question for you, Natalia. Mm-hmm. Why should our viewers and voters vote for you?
So, Risa, they should vote for me because I, for one, am the best candidate. I'm the only candidate that has experience in many facets in a variety of areas of law. I'm the one candidate that actually judges have sought out. I've gone over into chambers and I've taught judges how to apply certain law. When the law changed in 2017, family law changed, I closed the door of my office for one whole week, and all I did was study the law. I was called over for judges and they were teach us the new law. And so I have been training judges as recently as last year, 2025, new judges that were transferred to the family law division. So I've been training judges, so I'm very well trained to sit on the bench as a judge. I'm also fair. I'm running on integrity, equality, and respect. Those are principles that I live by, and those are principles that I will bring to the bench. So I'm asking people to punch 141. More will get the job done.
Thank you so much, Natalia, for appearing before us today.
Thank you, Risa.
Thank you. And there you have it. 4 candidates running in their particular sub-circuits that you heard from today. You had an opportunity to hear about their qualifications and the reasons why they believe voters should vote for them as the most qualified candidate in their race. And just to review, running in the first sub-circuit, we have Ashley Greer-Shambly, who is a 16-year veteran attorney at the Cook County Public Defender's Office. You can punch 143 to vote for Ashley. Also running in the first judicial sub-circuit, you also have, I believe it was Natalia Moore, who is also running in the first judicial sub-circuit. Radiance Ward, who's running in the first judicial sub-circuit. Also a 18-year veteran at the Cook County Public Defender's Office, and you can punch 141 if you'd like to vote for Radiance Ward. Radiance and Ashley are both running in the same sub-circuit, but they are not running against one another. And then running in the 17th sub-circuit, we have Amari Dawson and Natalia Moore, both veteran Cook County State's attorneys with 17 or 20 years of experience between the two of them. Punch 143 for Amari Dawson, and then you can punch 141 for Natalia. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we hope that our program will help you as you go to the ballot boxes on March 17th and vote for the most qualified candidates. And thank you, brothers in Christ, for hosting